Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Michele Robinson. I'm the State Chief Information Security Officer with the Department of Technology's California Information Security Office. So I want to welcome you to the 13th Annual Cybersecurity Symposium. And before, I have a few prepared remarks, as well as our co-government sponsor, Joanne McNabb, with the Office of the Attorney General. But before I do that, it's my pleasure to introduce our Director and State CIO, Carlos Ramos. Throughout his career, he's been a leader on many of California's key technology initiatives, but moreover, and more importantly and relevant to our event, is he's been a cybersecurity champion for us and you all as CIOs, ISOs, and business leaders in your organization. So again, it's my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our state CIO, Carlos Ramos, to say a few opening remarks.
Thank you, Michele. Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see everybody here. I wanted to welcome you, first of all, to the event and express a couple of words of appreciation. First and foremost, to Russ Hicks and Sherilyn and their team for coordinating and putting this together. They always do a great job for the state. And the one thing I do know about Russ is that he is very much he's in it as a business, but he's very much in it to try and improve the state and to try and improve the state's capabilities. So Russ, to you and your team, I want to just say thank you very much for hosting yet another great event, and it's evidenced by the great turnout we have. So can we have a round of applause for Russ and his team? I also want to take a minute to acknowledge the planning committee. So if you're a member of the advisory board or the planning committee that helped put together the event, could you please stand up so that we can see you and just acknowledge you as well? Don't be shy. And of course, none of this would be possible without the participation of our sponsors and exhibitors. So to those folks that are sponsors for the event, I want to thank you and just tell you that your investment in California will pay off. It'll pay off in better services for the constituents and a government that's more effective and more efficient. So can we please have a round of applause and appreciation for our sponsors? And then I just want to thank personally Michele and her team over at our Information Security Office. She does a lot of worrying. She does a lot of worrying about what's going on with the state. And when is the next big event going to happen? And they happen a lot. They happen all the time, as you'll hear throughout. So she does a great job. She just published through her office the state's new information security policy framework. That's been rolled out to the different state agencies, and she's doing just a great job and a lot of great work over there. So Michele, thank you very much. So let me know who all is in here. How many of you work for the state or some other public sector entity? Let me just see a show of hands. Wow, all right. Wow, that's great. Almost the majority of the audience. How many of you are in the private sector and working in and around IT security? All right. Well, I have to say, although I appreciate our partners, our business partners, I'm very gratified to see the turnout of the state folks that are here. So I think you're going to find this conference very informative and very important, and one that I think you're going to be glad that you came here. So Michele mentioned in her comments that I've been kind of a cybersecurity champion. And I really have been out there trying to get the policymakers and decision makers in government to understand the importance of cybersecurity. To that end, this morning, we started off the day by inviting the cabinet and inviting key department directors and chief deputies and undersecretaries and elected officials, control agencies, folks from the governor's office came over here for a special kickoff event. It was about 3.5 hours long, where we had the Naval Postgraduate School, their Center for Homeland Security, or Defense of the Homeland, I think it's called, came in and gave them an executive level briefing on cybersecurity. And I have to tell you, we had a great turnout. We had, I would say, what would you say, Michele, 40, 50 people there? And these were all high-level policymakers, and they stayed the whole time. Do you know how difficult it is to get people at that level to come together and carve out 3.5 hours, really 4 hours, because they got there early, 4 hours of their day to focus on one topic, and they were there. And they were there in force, and they were there in strength. So I have to tell you, what we did is we scared them. You know, we basically scared them. We shared with them what the threat landscape looks like. We shared with them just how pervasive and how much the threat is growing, and all the different sorts of bad actors out there, and how badly prepared the state really is. And we did that with a purpose. You know, we gave them a little bit of hope at the end, but we also gave them a set of takeaways and some action items for them to do, which includes reaching out to all of you guys and saying, hey, do we have, you know, cybersecurity plans? Have we done our own assessments? Are we training our staff? And they all took it very seriously. So I just wanted to forewarn you that that happened this morning, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of those folks calling you in and asking you what's going on and how are your departments prepared for it. So I have something for you that I wanted to start out with. I want to show you a video that I showed to them, and I think it kind of sets the stage for what we're about to go through here in this conference and the importance of why it's here. Why we're having this conference and why we have it every year. So I want you to pay close attention, because there is going to be a quiz, a pop quiz at the end of it. It's only about 4 minutes long, but do pay attention to it, because I'm going to ask you guys some questions. And those of you that are in the front rows, you know, it's always, nobody ever wants to sit in the front. I'm going to exempt you from the questions, because you guys were really good. So I'm going to look for the people in the back of the room, and I'm going to pick on them. So if you wouldn't mind going ahead and rolling the tape.
Also developing tonight, we now know how a hacker got into the South Carolina Department of Revenue's database and stole Social Security numbers and banking information from nearly 4 million people. The state says today they have also identified every person who is now at risk because of this massive security breach that affects so many of us, and will be sending out letters to everyone who is affected.
And also new tonight, the man in charge of the Department of Revenue has resigned. His name is James Etter. There he is. And the governor said they both agreed they needed a new set of eyes looking over that department. Now, the resignation comes after an investigation revealed that the state could have done more to protect taxpayers. Fox Carolina's Dana Wachter has more now from Columbia.
Governor Nikki Haley said the 3.8 million people whose information was compromised filed their taxes electronically sometime between 1998 and now. So those who filed with paper weren't part of the breach.
But along with those 3.8 million taxpayers, there are also almost 2 million children listed, almost 700,000 businesses affected, and more than 3 million bank accounts compromised.
Should we have done more? Yes, we should have done more than we did. We should have done above and beyond what we did.
Governor Nikki Haley introduced the report by Mandiant, an IT security company hired by the state to investigate the breach. It went day by day, noting when the hacker first sent out phishing emails to Department of Revenue employees. That was August 13th, to when the data was moved September 13th and 14th. It wasn't until October 10th that another law enforcement agency told the Department of Revenue that they found stolen South Carolina taxpayer information for sale online. And on the 19th and 20th, Mandiant closed the holes that the hackers sneaked through. Haley says the state made two big mistakes. First, not having dual verification to get into the Department of Revenue system, and second, not encrypting Social Security data.
I think when you combine the fact that we had 1970 equipment, combined with the fact that we were IRS compliant, was a cocktail for an attack.
Haley says while South Carolina was compliant with the IRS didn't require encryption of Social Security numbers. Today, Haley wrote a letter to the IRS asking for them to strengthen their regulations to include encrypting tax information so taxpayers in other states won't be at risk like we were.
Now, within the next week, everyone Mandiant says was compromised should receive a letter from the state, letting them know their personal information was stolen, telling them how to sign up for free credit monitoring, and how to protect their kids and dependents. Dana Wachter, Fox Carolina News Tonight.
Now, specific details into who the hacker is or what Department of Revenue employee clicked on the phishing malware, well, that hasn't been released. And it is an ongoing investigation, and we're told that's why. Now, Governor Haley says anyone who has signed up for Experian credit monitoring, even if they paper filed, can stay on that program. Now, as we told you last week, the governor's office hopes to prevent future hacking attempts with new technology and 24/7 system monitoring.
And once again, the state is offering the credit monitoring for free. Won't cost you anything. And to learn more, this is very important, by the way, go to foxcarolina.com. We are web live there right now. And there you will find a link to the Protect My ID website. You'll see it looks just like that. So if you're wondering about which site is the right one, that's it. And there you can sign up for the free credit monitoring service. You can also call 1-866-578-5422. We'll link you to all that information at foxcarolina.com.
So that's a little bit sobering, isn't it? Now, this isn't actually a staged video. This is an actual news clip from an event that happened just about a year ago. So a couple of questions for you all. Here's where the pop quiz part comes in. One of the reasons I wanted to show this video, and one of the reasons I showed it to the folks earlier today, is because the threat landscape, this potential, it's not just a potential anymore. It's actually there. It's happening. It's real, and it can have very devastating consequences. So those of you that were ready for the pop quiz, quick question for you on this: how many people, or not how many, but of the people that were impacted, who all got impacted by it in terms of who got affected by the data breach? Any guesses over here? The people that filed their income taxes, was it just them? It was their kids too, right? Right? And businesses? What, did they get just social security numbers, or did they get other information? Bank account information, right? So one of the things they didn't share on the video, but you can see it on some of the other videos, is that their credit card information, their identities, their social security numbers were being sold on the black market through a website coming out of Russia. So it got exploited, and impacted more than just the people that were the folks that filed immediately. You know how they said at the end that there's folks they had free credit reporting available to them, or credit monitoring? How many of you, and let's see a show of hands, think that came without a price tag to the state? They spent millions of dollars on that, for providing that service for 1 year to a group of like 4 million people. Now, another show of hands, how many of you think South Carolina has a bigger population than California? Right? They're relatively small potatoes compared to what we are. We represent a pretty big target. So here's a couple of other key elements that I think were present there. Anybody remember how the hackers actually gained access? It was a phishing sort of exploitation, right? So that's the sort of thing that we deal with all the time. So what that speaks to, I think, is a need for security awareness training and a change of habit, a change of practices in our users, right? So that's one of the things that every single department that's in here has to deal with. How many departments, again by show of hands, collect information that at least is in some way or form or fashion of interest to these potential hackers and bad guys? Can we just see a show of hands? Almost all of you. And I bet even those of you that didn't raise your hands, there probably is stuff that's in there. It's not all just about personally identifying information. It's information about our utilities, our operations, our transportation, our power grid, all those different things that we collect as government. Here's another one. Who wants to answer this one? This one's going to be a really tough one, so I need a volunteer before I ask it. Well, I did see my friend Alex Vergata over here, so I'm going to pick on him. Alex, who lost their job in this? Was it the user that hit on the, it's a multiple choice, so I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you. Was it the user that hit on that scam email? Was it the ISO? Was it the CIO? Or was it the director of the agency? What's your guess? You can call a friend if you need a lifeline. That's right. It was the agency head, right? And, he had to stand there with his governor, and, they didn't show it in this clip, but in some of the other news conference clips, you see her say, yeah, we both agreed that, it's time for a new set of eyes on this agency. How many of you would like to be there standing next to your governor or see your agency head there? Don't answer if you would like to see your agency head there. Right? That's why I showed it to the folks earlier today, because those were agency heads. Those were secretaries and undersecretaries and chief deputies. There are very real consequences when something like this happens. And so we have to take efforts to make sure that we protect the state and protect the information of the folks that we capture. And here's the last part of it that I thought was kind of important too as well. The other element of it is that in terms of what they could have done, was there a technical countermeasure, a technical protective measure that they could have done? Who caught what they could have done that would have prevented it? Catherine? Encryption, right? Two-factor authentication. The answers are there. The solutions are there. Very often, folks just are not putting the level of attention and the level of awareness into this. So the session this morning and the session today is about changing our culture, raising our level of awareness, and understanding that there are technical solutions as well as non-technical solutions, people-oriented solutions to enhancing and enforcing our security standards. One last thing there. I don't know if you guys caught this, but at the end, one of the things that I think really trips up agencies, and I want all of you to be on guard against this, there was a little bit of a false sense of security there, right? Did anybody catch what she said? They followed federal standards. I think she termed it, we're IRS compliant, so we thought we were good, right? I think most of us tend to get a little bit comfortable. I mean, maybe not you guys, because you're in the IT security space, but most departments, most agencies, most program operations, and even some, don't tell them I said this, but even some of the CIOs, I think rely on those sorts of, well, we met this standard or we met that standard. That's not good enough anymore. We have to be constantly on guard. We have to constantly make sure that we protect from probably our biggest vulnerability, which is our own users, our own stakeholders, and we have to put in place the right countermeasures. So, this event is aimed at helping you at all of those things. So I hope you take this video, to heart. You don't want to be the person responsible for your director or our governor having to stand in front of a podium, in front of the media, explaining, how this can happen in California. So get a lot out of this conference, learn from the experts, ask a lot of questions of them, and whatever you take here, bring it back to your offices and put it into practice. I told you, we've already talked to the high-level execs. They're going to be asking you, what are we doing, right? Be prepared with a checklist of what you're doing. Know and become familiar with the policy framework that Michele's office just put out, and be ready, because right now, that policy framework is published as requirements and as guidelines, but in about a year, we're going to start doing compliance assessments. So be ready for that, okay? All right, well, I'm going to bring Michele back up. She's going to introduce our keynote speaker. I just want to wish you a good conference, and like I said, get a lot out of this, because the folks that planned it put a lot into it. So thank you very much.
Okay. All right. I'm controlling this. Forgot about that. Okay, so I have a few prepared remarks before we introduce our keynote speaker, and I know Joan McNabb wants to say a few things, so let me do that as quickly as possible. First thing is a plug for National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. As many of you know, October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and California continues to be a sponsor and champion and participant to that national effort. One of the things Carlos has said recently is that we need to raise everyone's level of awareness about cybersecurity threat and the personal responsibility each of us has to make sure our computers are protected, make sure our personal data is protected. We each own a piece of that. We each have personal responsibility with that. So I encourage you to visit some of these sites. There are actually some updated public service awareness messages that we can use within our organizations to promote awareness, and especially during this month, but also throughout the year. So it should be a 365-day campaign that we're undertaking. So again, I encourage you to utilize the resources there. I know at our table today and tomorrow we should have the MSISAC posters that you can utilize and other materials to help raise awareness within your organizations. So I want to talk about vision and the vision for cybersecurity here in California. And I think top of my list is synergy, especially given our limited resources and based on this morning's discussion, some of the gaps we have in capabilities, and how we need to really come together as a whole community and create synergies based on what each of our capabilities are today and how we can best leverage those and leverage each other and come to solutions that will help us solve the problem more quickly. So what is synergy, right? A simple definition, the sum whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Again, I believe cyber synergy is necessary to tackling our cybersecurity challenges we face, not only as a state, but as a nation. The more we can raise awareness, which is really what this event is about, and engage in discussions surrounding the cybersecurity issues as a whole community and share knowledge and ideas about how to fix some of those things, the more effective we're going to be. We have to be more organized and more unified than the bad guys, right? So we need to come together as a whole community and really work at that. So when we really deeply understand each other and begin to communicate effectively, we open the door to those creative solutions and ideas. So we really need to be open to listening to each other and really asking and engaging in the conversations about what are our capabilities, what are each of our processes. Maybe someone has a really good process or procedure here that could be adapted for the state and used by others as a best practice. Again, so I think it comes to synergy. Once we engage in those conversations, our differences are no longer stumbling blocks to communication and progress. Instead, they become stepping stones to that synergy that we need. So again, with keeping with our campaign this year is we the people securing California for the people. And we are those people. So it's by the people. We are going to do that together. So synergy is already driving some accomplishments here in California. And just as a few examples of what we've done very recently is that in partnership with California Office of Emergency Services, our department has, under the leadership of Carlos Ramos, the director, and Mark Ghilarducci, the director of Cal OES, we've launched the Cybersecurity Task Force. Excuse me. And this has helped us begin that dialogue, begin that discussion and synergy, right? We're starting to see it happen now through that task force and those discussions. We saw it this morning in the educational seminar for the cabinet level folks. On September 17th, as Carlos mentioned, we released or issued our comprehensive security and privacy policy update. That was a strategic program and policy improvement effort. It was a year-long effort, and a number of the folks who participated in the development of that are here today. And Teresa Soria, Archie Alamagno, Helen Woodman, Stephanie Cervantes, Brentley Foon, if he is here, I don't see him, and Wanda Yepes with California Health Information Integrity. So, they were your representatives on the work group that helped put that together and and really deliver a quality product for our state. So October 1st, this year, as part of the National Cybersecurity Awareness Campaign, MSISAC held their third annual Cyber Pledge Contest. This year they closed the contest period on September 30th instead of running it through the month of October. So we had a little less time than anticipated to really build our pledges. However, we came through, we beat Arizona, and I'm happy to report we were the winner for the state pledge, the largest number of state pledges. I think, yeah. So thank you all. I would encourage you again to continue to promote Cyber Pledge as you're helping to educate your communities, your families, your colleagues, et cetera. So please continue that. And then last but not least, today's Cybersecurity Symposium, with the assistance with Russ Hicks and our advisory board, our private and public sector partners. We've been able to put together some really good educational content for you, so synergy's already occurring and driving accomplishments for our state. So I too want to acknowledge and appreciate our Office of the Attorney General co-sponsor, Joe McNabb, our private sector partners, sponsors, our state and local government sector partners who participated on the advisory board and in the planning and development of this event. Our partners in education, we had CSU and UC side of the house really stepping up to help us deliver some quality content through this day-and-a-half event. Our own California Technology Office of Professional Development and the marketing teams, my own personal team, my office, I really, they've gone above and beyond, worked late hours, and they worry as much as I do every single day. So thank you to them. And then finally, you all for being here and taking time out of your busy schedules and days to really benefit from the training. Okay, lastly, the ask. So what I'd like to see is that people get the most out of your time here today and tomorrow. Collect and share as much information as you can, adding to your toolkit and helping to add to other people's toolkits. Build and enhance your information sharing resources. Build and establish relationships here today that maybe you don't have right now with others. Again, build our community and create synergy. So I also want to just say, please visit the Solutions Center and be sure to join us here at 3:30 this afternoon for our first Security and Privacy Leadership Awards ceremony. And then I'll turn this over to Joanne McNabb, who is the Director of Privacy Education and Policy with the Office of the Attorney General and our co-sponsor.
Thank you, Michelle. Wow. And on behalf of Attorney General Kamala Harris, I want to welcome you all to the 13th Annual Cybersecurity Symposium. Thank you for attending and for evidencing your commitment to securing California by your presence here today. With the creation of the e-crime and privacy units, Attorney General Harris has consolidated many of our resources to address some of the more darker aspects of our robust technology economy. And just as California leads the nation in technological innovation, we can and do also lead in innovations in privacy and security. I'm happy to see for the first time the addition of a full privacy track to the event. There are 4 educational sessions on privacy, and I encourage those of you who are interested to check them out. Also, I want to remark and let you know, in case you hadn't noticed, that the federal government is shut down, and therefore the NIST session that was scheduled will not be held. So I hope that all of you who are leaders on privacy and security will find that this next day and a half useful and will help empower you as you continue to secure the future for all of our California residents. Thank you.